Hi everyone, my name is Eran Kinsbruner and I want to welcome you to this session for Star West 2020, obviously virtual and pre-recorded. My session is going to be Mastering Cross-Browser Test Automation with Cypress and Selenium. I'm not going to just focus on these frameworks. These are obviously going to be the core of this session, but I do want to put and actually start my session with the context and why these frameworks are so important. And I know that there are so many discussions comparing Selenium with Cypress, which is better. I hope that after this session, most of your answers will be resolved. I'm going to share not just slides, I'm going to share some demos, some code. So I hope that you will find it valuable. Before I dive deep, just a word about myself. As mentioned, my name is Eran Kinsbruner. I'm the Chief Evangelist and the Product Manager at Perfecto, which is a Perforce company, over 20 years in the space of development and testing, author of the 3 books, Digital Quality Handbook, Continuous Testing for DevOps Professionals, and also the fresh and newly released book that completes my personal trilogy, Accelerating Software Quality with AI and Machine Learning. Feel free to follow me over Slack channels, Twitter, LinkedIn, and ask any questions during and also after this session. Let's begin. I'm going to start my session with a kind of an overview about the landscape, then drill down into the different tools in the market in the cross-browser testing space, and then obviously focus more on Cypress and Selenium. Do some comparison, and I don't want to do a complete teaser, but it's not one versus the other. You'll soon understand why is that so. So the context of Selenium, Cypress, WebDriver IO, and other cross-browser testing is obviously to automate as much as possible of your web pages and screens, functionalities, flows, and so forth. But this is not why test automation is being done. Test automation, especially in today's DevOps and Agile reality, are done to enable shifting left quality as much as possible towards the build, towards the code commit, so you can get feedback as much sooner as possible, so you can mitigate risks, so you can address issues, reduce the MTTR, the mean time to resolutions of defects, and obviously gain higher confidence in what you are building towards your customers. Obviously, it's not just about shifting left and delivering value to your customers. It's also about failing fast and fixing fast. And also, when you're doing so, you're able to maintain your code and quality in a much easier way, because you're not really waiting for too long up until, the code was, let's say, integrated in this case here, and in a traditional quality model, probably you're going to fix and find issues here. So maintaining code and also test code, it's not just the production and the application code, it's also your test automation code, as fast as you can validate it and fix it. Obviously, it's the best from a maintainability perspective. And last but not least, it's also about a coverage concept here. The more you can put towards the left, the more you can cover earlier in the cycle, the more scenarios, the more platform combinations and permutations, functional, non-functional, API testing, everything can fit much easier when you are automating with high quality and shifting it left. So these are obviously stating the obvious for a while, but I thought it's a good way to start the session, because you will soon understand when you're talking about frameworks like Cypress and Selenium and what's in between, you will get the connection to this slide and the messages behind that. When you're talking about test automation for web and mobile, this session is all about web, but there is not such thing today as web. It's all digital, and a web browser or a website application needs to run across both mobile devices and browsers, desktop browsers. But here, the things become a bit more complicated because you're dealing with a squad team or a feature team, and there you are dealing with three different personas that each have their own requirements, their own objectives. Like the developer wants to accelerate feedback, get execution of testing as fast as possible so he can move to his next story point or defect resolution and others. So Cypress would probably fit well to the developers, front-end developers in the web context, because this is a very, and you will soon see it in a demo, this is a very fast framework from both test creation as well as execution. On the other hand, when you're looking at SDETs, they need to do much more end-to-end testing, integration testing, functional testing that involves some, you would say, a bit more sophisticated scenarios. And, oh, by the way, the SDET is not always fully skilled, if you like, as a developer in JavaScript. Maybe these developers know better, Python or C# or different languages. And here, frameworks such as Selenium, which have multiple language binding support, may fit better the SDET. But here we're talking about different languages, different scope of test execution with coverage, and also different platforms to cover as well, not just for web, but also for mobile. Last but not least is the business tester. The business tester needs to transition as much as it can from manual and exploratory testing towards automation, so we can fit the previous slide of shifting left. So it will be part of the build process, the build cycle, the feedback loop. Frameworks such as Quantum, which is a BDD open source framework supported by Perfecto, okay, or just the standard Cucumber, can be a good ramp up framework or technology for these guys. Obviously, you need to talk about not just the coding skill set among the three different personas, but also the test robustness. And obviously, with these frameworks, the test cases, the automation test cases are a bit more robust than test cases that are developed in Selenium and Appium. We talk here about dealing with complex object locators, timeouts, client server and network dependency and slowdown, versus frameworks that are running within the platform, within the browser, which are obviously much more faster, less dependent on the client server back and forth, and so forth. And also, they don't need to create the overall test environment like a Selenium grid to run. They are running on a local grid or a local device in that regard. If that wasn't enough, we are also experiencing, as part of the digital reality, the digital transformation, a maturity transformation, if you like, in the web browsers as well. We look at PWAs, progressive web applications. We are looking at application clips coming from Apple. We are talking about, I would say, Flutter applications, which are cross-platform. And these applications, these technologies, are starting to come with more advanced inside the browser capabilities, which we typically would see only on a mobile device. Things such as push notifications, access to the microphone, to the camera, offline caching. These kind of things are mobile native capabilities that are starting to flow into the web technology as either through Flutter application or progressive web applications or other application clips, which are a shortcut of the previously mentioned technologies. We also see what Android with Google are doing as part of the APKs, the Android application bundles, which is also an advanced technology which comes to kind of provide the end user experience in a greater way, serving him only together with the context, of course, the application subset that he needs in his location, in his language, with the supported features, either they're enabled or disabled. So a lot of enhancements are happening within the digital landscape, mobile and web, and they're obviously impacting and also challenging the test frameworks, causing these new trends that we are experiencing that are sometimes challenging Selenium, right? That we can say it loud and clear. Selenium is being challenged on a daily basis because of these disruptions because of these technologies. Next, there is also the debate around machine learning and codeless test creation versus open source. So here I won't dive too much deep. It's not in the context of this conversation, but while you think about Cypress versus Selenium or Cucumber, WebDriver IO, you also need to understand that, we talked about the SDET persona, the business tester that can use Quantum framework or Cucumber. There are also other codeless creation tools like even the Selenium IDE or the Mabel plugin that can be used as a codeless alternative. The Perfecto codeless Selenium via Testcraft also is a good alternative that can also kind of balance the endless fight between the different open source and codeless creation. To keep up with everything that goes on, in the landscape, you don't need to, do that much research. I typically, when I want to understand where the market is at a given point, I typically go to NPM trends and simply list all the different frameworks that I care about. I can just select 2 or 1 or 3 or 10 and see what is the trend. Are these frameworks still hot? Are they still being popular, being downloaded by developers and testers or not? Are they supported? When was the last commit? When was the last branching that was taken or other changes that happened to the GitHub repository? So this is a very good resource for any cross-browser test developer or engineer to look at, so we understand if his current technology is still the right one, or is there a more mature and more advanced one that he might tap into instead of what he's using for the current projects. So this is a good resource that I recommend following or bookmarking in your browsers. To complete the previous landscape kind of overview, there are plenty of subset frameworks, libraries below Selenium, below other frameworks that we are using that as a cross-browser test engineers, you should be familiar with. Some of them are already coming built into different frameworks. Some of them needs to be added as dependencies. Just to name a few, Mocha, Jasmine, Jest, are definitely very important frameworks and test execution frameworks. You can also look at code coverage solutions that are supported by Selenium, like Istanbul. This is a nice list for everyone to be familiar with and take advantage of towards expanding your test automation coverage. By the way, Perfecto, in my as far as I am up to date, supports the majority of the frameworks that are listed here. Specifically, lately, we just announced support for Jest. Mocha is supported, WebDriver IO, Selenium, obviously, and Cypress, Protractor. So you can kind of use Selenium with all these underlying libraries also to run your test in the Perfecto Selenium grid in the cloud across different browsers and mobile devices. With regards to the headless browsers, this is a very important trend that I would say over the past 12 to 18 months has become a very important one and a significant one, especially for front-end developers in the web technology. And headless browsers have a very significant role. Up until a year and a half ago, you would probably see just Phantom.js. Phantom.js is no longer supported. It's end of life. And instead of that, new technologies such as Playwright and Puppeteer came to the market. And these frameworks are very friendly front-end solutions to run either with UI, but most likely the benefit of these frameworks is to run in a headless mode, where you get a JavaScript environment that you can test across. If you're just using Puppeteer, it's just Chrome, but the guys from Puppeteer project have moved to Microsoft and recently developed Playwright. Playwright is the leading headless browser solution supporting Chrome, Firefox, and the WebKit Safari. Still JavaScript with more test runner frameworks. Some of them I mentioned in the previous slide. With these frameworks, you can actually cover a nice chunk of testing types and activities from unit to performance, accessibility, and also some basic functionality. Both are growing with good documentation, so check these out. These are Node.js packages that you can install and start running with. Playwright actually have a nice Slack channel for communication and support. So again, check them out. They are definitely a complementary frameworks to Selenium and Cypress for your end-to-end testing activities. Mostly, again, relevant to developers in my mind. When you're looking at the frameworks and the market, we talked about headless browser, we talked about front-end frameworks like Cypress, and we talked about functional end-to-end testing like Selenium. You do want to have different considerations from automation coverage requirements, SDLC process fitness, automation robustness and maintainability, the reporting that these frameworks can support, the community strength behind them, and obviously the execution at scale. We talked about developers and test engineers that care about fast feedback, execution at scale, elasticity. These are also considerations that you want to take when you are picking and choosing between the different and so many frameworks that are out there. Finally, before diving deep into the Selenium and Cypress conversation, whatever frameworks that you choose, you need to have a very perfect match into your DevOps pipeline. Okay, in this example, one of my clients, which I am really proud of, is using this method or pipeline to run its entire DevOps activities with a 10 minutes per day for a pull request feedback, and there can be 7 or even more pull requests happening a day. You get 10 minutes. So scoping the test cases, for example, here Cypress would be a good fit, right? But in a noon build where it's running for almost an hour to get feedback, you can use Selenium and other frameworks, even headless browsers, to get more scoping, more coverage, and more, I would say, confidence towards the nightly regressions that are running on, as many platforms and permutations that you can think of. So think about these different gates that you have within the pipeline that builds the confidence toward the end of the day or nightly regression. If you can build such a pipeline, and if you can divide the different technologies and frameworks in between your day, you can obviously get good and solid feedback, good confidence in your code development, and obviously meet your end user requirements with a high quality, of course. Now that we have kind of gave a nice overview of the shift left, the importance of shift left, about the market, the disruptions that are happening in the market, let's now just focus on Cypress and Selenium. And you won't see any slide that I'm talking about Cypress versus Selenium, and that's an important distinction that I want to make once and for all. I don't want to see any more blogs comparing Cypress versus. That's not the right term. That's not the right comparison. Okay, it's Cypress and Selenium. One can complete the other. I don't think that one should replace the other. Think about mature websites. Think about large suites of Selenium that are in good shape and they are running fine across browsers and mobile devices. I don't see a reason why throw them away because there is a new framework. I do see the benefits that Cypress can bring to the table to developers and SDETs, test engineers that are writing JavaScript scenarios. Cypress can definitely take a lot of the flaky tests, a lot of the test cases that are either not automated or that are not robust enough, or take a chunk of a website that is now being rebuilt, redone, which wasn't that stable and wasn't well tested with Selenium, and leverage Cypress to kind of complement it. So let's not do the kind of the bother between these two frameworks, but think about how they can complement each other, where they fit in the pipeline, who is the persona that is going to use these frameworks, and what are the actual features and capabilities, because they also kind of impact the decision making. To set the stage, Cypress and Selenium are head in head with regards to the downloads. You can see that, just a month ago, these frameworks are so close by the number of downloads, and we're talking about, millions of downloads per month. And obviously, these frameworks are providing great values to the developers, to the test engineers, and they are widely adopted, very well documented, and robust to do the job that they are intended to do. So just to set the stage, going back to the NPM trends recommendation that I gave you, if you just filter out the noise and just focus on these two frameworks, you can see that both of them are, and obviously Cypress is growing with its popularity towards, maybe closing the gap with the Selenium download rate. So obviously these technologies are here to stay. What Cypress is all about: Cypress is an all-in-one testing framework with assertion libraries, mocking, dashboards that it can run locally without you needing to set up any Selenium grid. You can do so, and I will demonstrate. You can do so with Perfecto and run more things in parallel together with Selenium, for example, from CI. But the setting up of testing with Cypress is obviously a bit more easy and straightforward than Selenium. And when you think about front-end developers who don't have the time to write unit testing, end-to-end testing, Cypress can definitely serve them quite fast. They just install, download, create a very quick JavaScript scenario, run it in their local environment or again in the cloud, and get the fast feedback and move on. So that's one benefit of Cypress. Another one, or kind of additional benefits that Cypress is bringing, is that Cypress, as Selenium, it's a fast and open source. It works on any front-end framework. It supports JavaScript. That's in few minds will be a disadvantage, but keep in mind that most of the websites today are written in JavaScript. So you test or write test cases in the language that your website is written in. But if you compare it with Selenium, Selenium has different language bindings that may be an advantage to many organizations that have more skill set within Java, Python, C#, and others. So that's one trade-off, if you like, but obviously the JavaScript with developers makes a lot of sense, and that's a great match. There are other features that are unique to Cypress. There are other features that are also unique to Selenium. Okay, let's not keep Selenium aside, but time travel, real-time reload of changes in your browser, and running in CI are definitely among the key benefits of Cypress to developers. So the ability to, like if you are familiar with the Flutter framework, Flutter has the hot reload. So here it's called real-time reload. You fix something, you reload it, and you get the fast feedback of the changes through the testing itself. It's quite easy to use. It has good documentation and many command line options that makes the testing end-to-end more flexible. This is kind of a nice summary of the features. Obviously, the Cypress APIs, writing within Cypress starts with CI, that's the Cypress, and you can change viewports. You have different commands. So if you are familiar with Selenium, that's a totally different language to learn, but it starts with CI, and it's quite straightforward. You visit this website, and you can get over in this regards over the menu and trigger some event, click on objects, do some assertions and validations, and so on and so forth. Some visual validations as well. You can see here a list of the features that the framework is supporting. I mentioned a few, like time travel and the reload. Screenshot and videos I also mentioned. You can monitor the traffic control, the network traffic, which is very important. So this is kind of, in a nutshell, how Cypress is built, and you can understand the benefit it has to developers. With regards to using Cypress, Cypress comes with a GUI runner. It can be run within a cloud through a node package, a service that Perfecto developed. I will soon show you how it looks like. Or you can simply write the code and run it from command line. I will also show you that. I will show you the 3 methods of running Cypress. Again, you will decide on each method based on the persona, the phase in the pipeline, and the coverage requirements, of course. Cypress also supports a dashboard for parallel testing and monitoring and other trends to do, to manage your dashboard and get the parallel testing distributed by Cypress engine and get the recording delivered to the dashboard. You need to have the project ID that you get from the dashboard, and you need to have a record key, something like that. When you get this record key, which you pass as a parameter, and you set up in the Cypress JSON file the project ID, when you run the test using these tags, you will get all the reports back to the Cypress dashboard. Before moving to demos, I want to show you just a bit about the Perfecto package. So Perfecto implemented a Perfecto Cypress SDK. Once you install it and initialize that, you will get the access to the different clouds. And this is important because you can run as much as you want test cases, Cypress JavaScript test cases, across different browser permutation, across different locations. Perfecto is a cloud solution, so you can get access to browsers in Europe, APAC, US, and many other geographies, which gives you a much more deeper coverage and scalability, running them in parallel. The only thing that you need once you install the package is to create the Perfecto config file, which is that in JSON, put the demo cloud URL, the security token, and you can run it either through a cloud repository. You can actually upload a zip file like this one into the Perfecto cloud and run it as a parameter, or you can run it against a specific test spec, if you like that, with a -ts alias, and just specify the test that you want. Okay, you have 2 ways of running in the cloud: either run as a full suite of something that is already in the cloud stored as a repository, or you can run it with the specification of the test specs, either 1 or 2 or 3, as much as you like. In addition, since Perfecto has a heavy reporting dashboard and SDK, you can pass all these different parameters through the Cypress report, so you get the ability to slice and dice Cypress results within the Perfecto cloud, whether by job name, by test name, by other tagging that you can add. And obviously, it gives you the ability to differentiate between either the Cypress tests themselves or Cypress versus Selenium versus other test cases that are running in your cloud. So it gives you the ability to filter, slice, and dice data. Let's just talk a bit about Selenium before we move to the demo. So Selenium is maturing in parallel with Cypress. Selenium is, the de facto. No one is going to take it away from him. Selenium is a great framework, a great solution, a mature one, which has different bindings to different languages. And with Selenium 4 approaching, you're going to get some additional capabilities that weren't supported previously, not just the new look and an optimized web driver and a new Selenium grid implementation, but also an improved Selenium IDE, the ability to work with relative locators, which will enhance the stability of your scripts. It's fully compliant with W3C protocol, so you can ensure that all your scripts run according to the specs. And it's also going to integrate with the Chrome debugging protocol, the CDP, so you can get more abilities, especially from the backend side of the story, like blocking specific types of code from being loaded, styles, images, whatever you have in your server. You can block them through this integration with the Chrome debugging protocol. Relative locators, I mentioned, to left, off, below, it will give you a much more ability to identify elements within your test automation scripts and reduce the flakiness of your scripts. It's not Cypress versus Selenium. That's my bad. It's Cypress and Selenium, but it's a comparison. Okay, so let's take it from the positive approach. And you can see here, Cypress supports Chrome, Electron, Firefox, and Edge. It can, again, be supported with all the different versions that you get within the Perfecto cloud, or if you install locally on your machine, and I will soon show you how it looks like, a browser, whatever is installed locally will be executed, or you can select to execute it within the local Cypress. It's just JavaScript with supporting in the backend with Mocha and Jest. It has a dedicated UI with built-in browsers. There is no real grid. It can support front-end and unit testing as well as UI testing. The maturity of this framework is growing. Comparing to Selenium, Selenium supports the entire range of browsers with Safari. Safari is not supported by Cypress, which is kind of a something that Cypress will need to close pretty soon. And you see the majority of other languages and bindings that are supported. So I would say these are two major advantages that Selenium has. Again, this is an SDET-friendly framework, and this is more like a front-end developer-friendly framework. This is where these two frameworks are meeting each other and complementing each other. There are more test runner frameworks supported. There is a grid here. There are more coverage capabilities of the framework, and it's much more or way more mature. I will skip this slide pretty fast, but you can see here that, you know, if you combine all of the things that I mentioned earlier in my session about Selenium and Cypress, you can see that it's a combination of frameworks with personas and skill set, like you can see here, that gives you the full coverage, the full quality governance, and the full control over your website. Okay, so don't think about one row. Most of my clients that I'm serving are actually using at least 2 or 3 different frameworks to accomplish one single task, which is end-to-end testing of a website. And they're mostly using either Selenium plus Cypress, or Selenium with Codeless, or Selenium with Quantum BDD. Okay, but it's never one framework because you deal with, again, different personas with different skill sets, with different objectives and capabilities. So this is kind of a nice matrix or comparison that simply proves the point that, you know, you need to think a bit about the combinations of technologies in today's reality rather than competing one versus the other and choosing only one. Okay, because you will never get it. You will never get it right. That's from my experience at least. Last but not least is the test data visibility. At the end of the day, when you are sending a test execution task via schedulers, CI, command line, whatever, you are kind of blind. The only time you meet these test cases again is through the report, when you get the results back to your dashboards or browsers or email, whatever method you are using. And there you can start realizing value. This is where you understand whether your test cases are bringing value, how many are flaky, which frameworks are most robust, which platforms are less stable, what are the major blockers, like you can see here, that kind of maybe hide issues from you to identify and maybe enhances risks for quality. All of these benefits that I just mentioned can only be gathered through a good test reporting and analysis platform. On top of Selenium, on top of Cypress, on top of other frameworks. This is, in my mind, one of the game changers in today's digital transformation, as you do a lot of continuous testing, as you grow the test data on a daily basis. You need something to slice and dice the data. You need some machine learning, like you can see here, that can automatically identify the root cause of a failure and filter it for you so you can identify issues and move much more fast. Let's now move to a few demos, and I will start with, I would say, maybe let's start with Selenium. Okay, we talked a lot about Cypress. Let's start with Selenium. So when you talk about Selenium, and this is not Selenium 4 yet, it's just Selenium, but Selenium running on so many different platforms: an Android mobile Chrome browser, an iOS Safari browser, a Windows machine with Chrome 83 and Chrome 79, and Chrome latest and latest -1, and the list goes on and on. This is a huge benefit of the cloud. Okay, I'm going to run it in the cloud with a security token and my user on the Boston Globe website, and I'm going to see the grid being populated and the execution starting. Before I click on running, I just want to launch my cloud to access the cloud so you can see the live stream. You can see the execution happening in real time. As the cloud loads, you can see that I'm going to click on Analyze Results, and I will go, by the way, that's the Perfecto dashboard that I talked about earlier. You can see here in the report library all the activities that are happening, okay? And live stream is where I'm going to see all the execution. So I'm going to go to this project. It's a Maven project with Selenium, and in the test ng, I'm specifying all the different configurations. That's my test data provider. Once I click on execute, all the different WebDriver connections are going to happen to the relevant configurations. As you can see here, these are so many platforms. You can see it's a long list. Now I will go to my live stream, and you will start seeing all the different desktop and mobile configurations being populated, and the execution is going to start. Okay, you see here all the different screens are loading. You see the Boston Globe, and you see how fast it is. You don't need to set up any Selenium grid on your own. You just provide them as configurations in test ng. You see it on this mobile device and on this browser and this browser, and the list is long. Okay, we don't need to wait until everything completes. But obviously, you can see the fast execution. You see the scalability and the parallel testing, which is a key for success. Once the execution completes, everything is going to be loaded here. I'm going to, this is one test that was just completed. So I can click on this, and you can see a Windows machine with Windows 8.1 on Chrome latest -2. And you can see here all the different screenshots that were taken. It's also with a video recording. This is a basic Selenium grid execution in the Perfecto cloud. You understand how it looks like. So that's the Selenium piece, or the Selenium part of the demo. I could have run it also with a BDD via Quantum. I ran it as a Selenium pure project. Let's now move to Cypress. Cypress has a GUI runner. Okay, let's just look at one scenario, one Cypress script. This is how a Cypress script looks like, called actionspec.js, and it goes simply to the website and types into a DOM element like that. You can see here all the commands are using Cypress, cy.get, cy.visit, typing some text, and these methods, these are all Mocha JavaScript methods, and you can see here with the support for focusing on the element and some validations. So this is a nice, straightforward, quite a long test that Cypress is providing you. By the way, you can take this test case or test cases from the Cypress execution. The installation comes, the Windows and Mac installation comes with a folder of code samples that you can use and build more of your scripts on top of. It's quite easy. So once I click on Action Spec, what you will see is that, and that's quite fast, you can see the execution starting on a different browser. It's an inside my machine browser. I didn't need to set up any grid. It's running on the Mozilla Firefox, okay? And the execution is starting. You can see here, everything is typing. It's very fully synchronized. You see the step here, and you see the screen here. For a developer, this is perfect, okay? You can stop and zoom into the code. You can put some breakpoints, and you can see everything that is going on. Let the step or the test finish. You saw that it took just a few seconds. And once I click on this step or this scenario, you see it fully synchronized with the on the right hand with everything that happened on the actual test. And this is the DOM snapshot, okay? Okay, so you can really understand what is going on at any given point. Test versus, code versus reality versus the browser. Okay, I'll close this test. And by the way, you can see here, okay, this is currently running Firefox 79. That's the browser that is installed on my Windows machine. If I had a different Firefox or a different Chrome, I can select one, or I can configure few browsers to run in parallel on my machine. I will click on stop just so you can see. This is what I have on my machine: Edge 85, Chrome 85, Electron, and the Firefox browser. If I want to go to the settings, I can, as mentioned, you can run things in parallel. You can see the project ID and the record key, and this allows you to run tests in the cloud and against the dashboard, okay? And the dashboard would look like that. If I go to this dashboard, this is how the Cypress dashboard look like when an execution takes place. This is an example of a project that was recording on my dashboard. You can see it here. You can see everything that was executed with, execution order, insights, how much time it took, the different browser. You can slice and dice data here. If you want to learn more about the project settings, so you can pass them as configurable parameters, you can go to your project settings and see the cypress.json project ID, and you can see the record key, or you can actually create a new one if you like, and you can use in different executions a different record key, so you can differentiate your flows. The same execution that I've just shown you can actually be done also. I probably save you the time, but if you look at the command line, you can see that you can actually run via the Cypress run command record and the key that you saw here, that's exactly the same key, in parallel, this exact same step called actionspec.js, okay? So I can actually run it as a command line without using the GUI runner, so both are supported. Last but not least, I want to show you the Perfecto SDK. The Perfecto SDK, once you install this, the NPM, the node package, through npm install perfecto-cypress-sdk and run the Perfecto Cypress init command, you can create the initial configuration file with the cloud URL. And once you do so, you will have the ability to use the different supported capabilities, which are run, upload, and pack. The supporting run command allows you to specify the cloud URL, the security token, and either the repository key. You can bundle as a zip file your Cypress scripts, and the zip file will be stored privately in a Perfecto cloud, and you can just run the artifact ID or the alias called TA against the cloud. Same goes with the reporting. I've shown you the reporting SDK. It's also plugged into Cypress with Perfecto, so you can put all the different tags using, RT, let's say Cypress or other tags, so you can filter, slice, and dice data once they're being reported back to the Perfecto dashboard. You can also upload on demand Cypress scenarios to the cloud, and the only thing that once you want to execute is, by the way, you also have a help method here. You just need to click the run command, Perfecto Cypress run, path to the test spec. In this case, it's the same one that I've shown you, actionspec.js, with the tag called Cypress and the path to the Perfecto config, where I show the demo cloud in my case. You can see it here. So I am providing the demo cloud and my security token, but also the different capabilities. So if you saw in the Cypress local execution, I had Electron, Firefox, and Chrome 85. Here you can specify as many browser permutations as you like with locations in the Perfecto cloud. So you can test on Chrome, on Firefox, and other versions, Edge, in as many permutations as you like, and it will all be run for you in the cloud. Once you run it in the cloud, I just want to show you in a second what you will see. You will see a full report, like I'm going to show you in a second, summarizing the execution. So in that regard, you see that the automation framework that was used is Cypress. You see all the tags. Some of them were with Espresso, some of them with Cypress. But when you click on Cypress, You also get the failures. You can see the failure reasons if it's an exception. Some of the things are just for debugging, but also you can see all the different commands, okay? You can see here all the different commands that Cypress was submitting to the cloud, so you can obviously slice and dice and filter all the different executions. With that, let me stop the demo and move to the back to the slides before we wrap up this session. So we have talked here about, in this session, about the cross-browser testing landscape. We talked a bit about the differences and the fitness of a specific framework to a different persona. I've compared between Cypress and Selenium, but also gave a teaser about headless browsers like Puppeteer and Playwright. I've demonstrated the different flavors of executing Selenium either in the cloud or through command line. I've talked a bit about Cypress, which has also various execution methods, the GUI method, the CLI, and the cloud with Perfecto. Just to complete my session, to be successful in continuous testing, what I believe and Perfecto believes is that you need to have a unified solution that supports the creation of test cases that fits the different personas and skill set, the execution in parallel at scale with orchestration through CI and CD in a governed lab, which is secure, enterprise grade, global, with full support for all the different latest and greatest frameworks, browser versions, and operating systems. And last but not least, you need to have the good analysis and quality visibility so you can make sense out of everything that goes on the left hand of this slide, so you can gather value and improve as you move forward. So these are, in my mind, the 4 pillars for success. About Perfecto, for those of you who are not familiar, and I think you're much more familiar now because you have seen also the demo, Perfecto is all about a continuous testing platform, cloud SaaS solution for web and mobile application testing from creation through execution and analysis. We support all the different browsers, desktop browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari, in different geographies, as well as all the different mobile application testing, native application testing with Appium, Espresso, XUI test, again, in the cloud, iOS and Android, together with real devices, smartphones and tablets, and virtual devices like simulators and emulators. All are fully supported. So check us out at perfecto.io if you haven't done so already, and feel free to let us know if you need any additional information or support. With that, I would like to move to the Q&A part of the session. So if you have any questions during the session and after, now it's the time for me to address them. But before that, I would like to thank you for taking part of this session and visiting the Perfecto booth, hopefully at Star West. I hope you found this session valuable, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for joining.